Hey, welcome to day 3. Today is the day when I really want to kind of pull all the pieces together we've already been working on. And I'm going to give you guys a super practical tool. And best case scenario, you guys love this tool so much that you start using it weekly, monthly, however often you want. But I'm going to teach you what I call the predictable profit formula. And it's literally 3 numbers that are super easy to track. But when you track them, it gives you a huge amount of information about what you need to know about what your business, what's working and what's not working. Now, I want today's call to be like hands-on. So I'm actually thinking, why don't we do this together on the call? I don't want to just talk about it and then think that you guys will go off and do it by yourself. I'm like, let's just do it right now. How does that sound? Do you guys want to try it right now? Because, an hour is valuable time and let's make the most of it. So, predictable profit formula. We're going to be bringing all the pieces together that we've talked about so far. And I made this super cute little report card for you. I say super cute. It's not like I made it all fancy graphic-y cute. I think it's super cute because it's short, sweet, to the point. And there's one thing I know about us is we are busy. And if stuff gets hectic, chaotic, and overwhelming, what do is we just put it off. Like if I asked you to do this super complex report card on a weekly or monthly basis, you'd be like, okay, I'll do that next week. And it would just keep getting bumped ahead on the calendar, and 6 months would go by, and you're like, oh, I didn't even do that once. So, no, let's keep it easy. Let's keep it direct. Let's keep it simple. So, I'm going to share the link with you. Oh, I need to make it so that it is a shareable link. It's on a Google Doc, so you should be able to make a copy and open up it in your own like editable version. And then we're going to walk through this together. Okay, here we go. Somebody try it and confirm to me that you can open it. Maybe I'll screen share as well so that we can just talk about it together a little bit before we dive in how to do this. So when you open the link, make sure you make a copy because you won't be able to edit it as it is. So you'll just have to rename it under something that you can edit, and then it will work for you. But to just kind of back up a little bit, why do we track numbers? Okay. Why is it important? And maybe even to kind of back up a little bit from there, how many people find numbers to be like, oh, a little overwhelming, a little confusing? Like, I don't know if I'm great at numbers or not. Does anybody kind of feel that way? And I know for me, even though I think I am a bit of a numbers geek in a lot of ways, like I studied econometrics in university and thoroughly enjoyed it. And obviously, I have a numerology training and certification and did financial forecasting for many years. But here's the thing behind numbers. Numbers are just a symbol for something. They're just meant to represent something. That's all they are. They stand in for something. And of course, if you don't understand what they're standing in for, it's confusing, right? I took what in school? I know, Tina, right? Yeah, I learned how to do like matrix algebra by hand in school. I was nerdy. But numbers just represent something, but they just stand for something. And even for me, after spending 6 years studying numbers, statistics, econometrics, all these kinds of things, numbers are confusing if I don't understand the point and what they're standing for. So let's kind of demystify them a bit and recognize they're just symbols. They're symbols to represent something. And if I don't understand it, it's just for me to figure out what's the story behind this number and why do I need to know it, right? So when you have numbers to look at things, they are here to tell you a story. Okay. So how many people will sometimes look at their business or like wake up and sit down at their computer and they're like, what am I supposed to focus on right now? Like, does that happen to any of you? Like, it happens to me all the time. So no shame of like, what am I focusing on? What do I need to look at? What do I need to pay attention to? What should I be doing? Right. And no shame. This can happen to all of us. But this is where having a system to lean on, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, will save you from the mental load of having to figure it out, right? If I didn't have a system to rely on, then I have to rely on my mental bandwidth which is thin some days, to tell me what's my next step, right? And it's like, no, I just have to go and look at my system and it will tell me. So now when I sit down at my computer and I think to myself, what am I supposed to focus on? I can go back to look at some of these numbers and they will tell me what to focus on. They tell the story for me, right? And then they will tell me, based on the things I've taught you guys on day one and day two, where to put my attention. So they're just symbols. That's all they are. And how many of you have heard the old adage, if you don't measure it, you can't change it? How many have heard of that? Like if you don't measure something, you can't, well, first of all, you can't assess, is it good or bad? Right? You can't. You don't know if it's, is my business doing good right now? I don't know. I have to look at something to tell me. And what would I look at? Right? Like if you, and that's a question to maybe for you to sit with right now. If I was to say to you, is your business doing good or bad? And you were like, let me check, what number would you look at? Does anyone want to pop in the chat? Like, what's the number that you look at, the quantifiable data that you look at to tell you, is my business doing good or bad today? Profits, right? We look at our bank account, 100%. It's like, what's my bottom line? Can I pay my bills? Can I pay myself, right? That's success if I can, fail if I can, right? Anybody else with me on that? The thing about profits, yes, important, and please track that. But the thing about profits is they're what we would call a lagging indicator. Okay, I'm getting nerdy with you guys. Is anyone familiar with the term lagging indicator? Okay, it just tells us something after the fact. Okay, so profits are measuring what we did last month, right? They're historical data, right? It's done now. Once I'm looking at my profit, there's nothing I can do to change what happened. So it's lagging. It happens afterwards. Okay. So instead, we need to start looking at things like look at it still, don't ignore it, but also recognize that it tells me what happened in the past. So what would be something that could predict what's coming? Okay, this is what we would call a leading indicator. It's going to predict what's coming. Okay, that is something I have influence over because it's before the money comes. So if it's something that I like, great. If it's something I don't like, I can do something about it to influence my profits, which will be happening after the fact. Does that make sense? You guys with me on leading versus lagging indicators? So we want to look at some of our leading indicators to know what's coming up for us and to attempt to predict what's happening. And that's where this report card comes in. Okay. Does this sound too complicated or are you guys with me? Does anyone have any questions about this? I'm going to make this so simple. You guys will be like, okay, wow, we can do this. Excellent. I love it. It's great. It's exactly what I need to hear. Right. Yay. Me too. Okay. Well, I'm going to turn you guys all into numbers geeks before this is all said and done. That's like my secret motivation today. Okay. So if we know if our leading indicator, the predictive indicator, is good or bad, right? Then we can do something about it. We can influence it. We can change it, right? Then we can influence our profits down the road, which is going to tell us about history. Okay. So that's what I want to talk with you guys about today. So we're going to lean on what we did yesterday with the three-stage business model. Okay. Let me share my screen with you. I'm going to post this in the chat in case anyone came in late and didn't see it, but here's the Google Doc that has everything we're talking about on it. I hope you guys can hear me okay. It never fails that when I want to run training, the landscapers come by with their really loud equipment. So I'm hoping that you guys can't hear the like leaf blowers in the background. Oh, the joys. Okay. Can you guys see my screen share? Okay. I kind of titled today's class the predictable profit formula because when you understand these three numbers, I guess there's four actually, but in my mind there's three. I'll explain why in a minute. When you understand these three numbers, You know how to predict your profit. You know how to forecast what's going to come in the next quarter, which means you know what behaviors to change within your business if you need to influence it to be higher or lower or whatever, right? Or you know the impact of like, oh, if I have to cut back my hours because I have a family obligation or whatever, how's that going to impact my business and my revenue? So that's what we're going to talk about today. So the first thing I really need you guys to do is I really need you to map out your three-stage offer to some degree or another. And that's kind of what I've got here under step two. I know we're going to come back to step one. I'm sorry for the people who need things linear. We're not super linear over here sometimes, but think about what are your stage ones, okay? So this is your free entry points, your community building. Do you have a quiz? Do you have an opt-in? Do you network? Do you have referrals that work for you? What types, like, do you have cross promotions? How do you build your community? So if you've got this open and you've kind of made a copy to edit on your own screen, just like highlight the ones that are working for you. Or if you have other ones that I didn't mention here, just type them in so that you know what you're doing under your stage one. Okay. It's really important to just know, here are the things I'm doing, because going back to the conversation about leading and lagging indicators, this is step one. So this is where, if you're like, I need to make some changes, this is where you can really make an influence and impact. If you don't have enough things happening here, that's going to be a problem. And you're going to be like, okay, I'm not happy with my little report card, my little formula, so I need to make some changes. Okay. But let's start with, what do you have? And maybe, you can also do like, this is what I have happening now, but this is what I'd like, right? So maybe you've got like green highlight of the things you're doing and like red highlight of like, I wish I was doing these things. Okay. Then the second piece I want you to look at is, what is your stage two offer? So it could be a bridge offer, like a low ticket offer. It could be, do you do an audit, a proposal, an assessment? Do you do quotes? Do you have some type of introduction call or like familiarization call? Do you do a sales call? Do you do workshops or live events? Anything like this would be considered a stage two offer. So, for example, I was at the Dare to Dream Summit a couple of weeks back. I would count that as an accessible offer, right? And I would count how many people, that I had an interaction with that felt meaningful. Okay. Um, Obviously, like, that's a process involved there. It's not quite the same as being like, I booked a sales call with this client, right? The sales call is super direct and super obvious. Having someone sign up for your workshop is super direct and super obvious. Giving someone a pitch or a proposal, all of these things are really clear action items under step two or stage two. Okay, again, so highlight maybe in green the ones you're doing, and maybe highlight in red the ones you'd sort of like to experiment with and maybe try something new, right? And we experiment here. There's no hard and fast rule as to what this needs to look like. And it's not like you pick one thing and do it forever. We experiment. We try different things on in different conditions. Some things work better than others, right? You'll go through cycles where you're like, oh, I'm loving doing sales calls. And then you'll go through another cycle where you're like, nope, not loving them. It's like, okay, that's fine. Then pick something else. Okay, we've got to do something. And then your stage three. So this is like where you make your money. So this would be anything like client sessions, client packages, repeat buyers, having someone accept a contract, buy something from you. Money is exchanging hands. Okay. Now, depending on your business model, there might be some blur between your stage twos and stage threes, and that's okay. It doesn't have to be hard and fast on that, but just have it in your mind. What is client attraction conversion versus what is like my profit money making? If that makes sense. So like if I'm running an event that I'm charging, like when I was doing those numerology circles, I think I was charging $20 for them. That's not a money maker. In fact, it's probably costing me money to run them, but they are a conversion event, and that they bring people into my world who I can identify as having raised their hand to be involved in my business in some way, shape, or form. Make sense? Does anyone have any questions on the difference between like a moneymaker versus a conversion event? Conversion event basically is like, I now have your contact information. You've told me you want to be involved. It could be tracking link clicks and downloads through your opt-ins and things like that. It could be someone booking a call with you. Like there's lots of different ways to kind of do that. Another conversion event is like I ran some ads last week on the numerology powered business plan. So anybody who downloaded that, that's a conversion event in my mind. Now they are like a prospect for a numerology business plan. Make sense? Is everyone with me on this? Anybody lost? Want to talk through it? Pop some questions in the chat or feel free to unmute. I want this to be super interactive. I say that and I can't even see the chat. Let me pull the chat up here. Or unmute yourself. No leaf blowers. Okay, phew. Thank you. I'm glad. Okay. Okay, can I assume silence means you're all with me? Did I lose anybody? Hopefully you've indicated that what that is now. Okay, we're going to go back up here now. Okay. Sounds good. Parent support groups. Absolutely. The amazing thing about something like that is that is a really powerful lead generator and conversion event. It's both because a parent support group is something that people will refer other people to, right? And it's something that you can build a reputation around and people will like send their friends there, that kind of thing. But as soon as people start to attend, then they are raising their hand to tell you they're interested. And now you have basically like consent to be marketing to them in a more in-depth way, right? So if I was going to run what did you call it? A parent support group. If I was going to run a parent support group, I'd probably break it down into two steps. So one is the parent support group, but like, what would I do right before that? Right? So I would think of like, what's something that they would really find helpful and useful that they could use whether or not they showed up to the parent support group? Because that's what, like, everyone who's like, oh, parent support group, I should do that. I should do that. That's a good idea, but doesn't actually like reserve a spot. How do I capture those I should do that people? Right? So if I can come up with a really juicy resource for them, that will really like hook them in, potentially solve a basic problem that they have, but be very tangible in terms of like their specific day-to-day real life experience, then they download that thing. Now they're on my email list and I can continue to market to them to join the support group. And then once they come to the support group, now they've stepped even further into my funnel. Does that make sense? Feel free to unmute if you want to ask me on questions.
It's so windy, it might be too noisy for you. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so I've been thinking about doing those as just like a community builder type of thing, and then leading into like a membership type of thing where they can also upgrade and have like a higher level of support and include like the one-on-one type of sessions in there.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, I've just been playing around with that. I was doing kind of women's groups as more just community building again, but it doesn't really directly lead into my offer that I'm going to be doing next. So,
Yeah.
yeah, just kind of playing around with that.
And this is a really good point, right? Because it's one thing to do something because it's fun for me and I like it, which there's nothing wrong with that. But if I don't understand where it fits in my customer journey, it may or may not be sustainable for me to do it, especially I would say as an entrepreneur, a business owner, and a parent. Like we have a lot of like spinning plates. So if we don't understand where one thing leads into the next, it's really easy to do it for a while and then check out and get burned out from it. 100%. If I don't see a flow from my actions, I'm the exact same way. I can only sustain them for so long before I'm like, and we're done here. Like, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think it's okay, especially if it's like, oh, this was a passion project. It's like, I'll do it for a bit and then I'm going to stop. Right. But it's like, once I figure out what's sustainable, because to me, I always look at it through the lens of the divine law of compensation. So the divine law of compensation is an infinity loop. Okay. But you kind of flip it this way. So it's an infinity loop to you and the world from your business. Okay. And energy going out needs to be reflective of energy coming back. And if I don't see how that's related, I will burn out. right? So looking at it through that lens, it's fine to do experimentation for periods of time. But if I can't clearly see how this energy investment on my part is going to bring back into my business, it's not going to sustain, it's going to burn out. And, it doesn't make sense in the long term. So I think it's really helpful to understand like where does this fit in my journey and how is it like how am I leading my clients somewhere with this thing? Okay. So we really need to understand step ones and step twos through that lens. Where am I leading people? Yeah, I loved it, but it wasn't supporting my business. And it's like, fair enough. Right? So good. Okay. So once you have a sense of your stage one, stage two, stage three, this is where some of this stuff is going to make a lot more sense. However, even if you don't know what your stage one, two, and three is yet, I still want you to do this with me, okay? Because it's going to be really, really helpful. Okay, so the first thing I want you to do is I want you to ask, like, okay, question number one, do you have sales calls, discovery calls, where you have a conversation with someone about your offer? Okay, if the answer to that question is yes, I want you to go and look in your Google Calendar or whatever calendar you use, even your calendar software, like I use Calendly. So if I log into my Calendly, it will show me how many people have booked with me in the month of September. Okay, that's what I want you guys to look at right now. So minimize your Zoom screen, go into your calendar or your calendar software and write down the number of sales calls, discovery sessions, or client inquiry conversations I've had in the last month. Okay, you guys with me? That's what we really need to be writing down right here is the number of sales conversations I've had. Okay. If you are able to have conversations in the DMs, and you can close them. That's a skill. It's a gift that you develop over time. It's a muscle. It's not something that is easy to do, but it's totally doable. Then you can count those open DM conversations, but don't count them if you're never able to close in them, right? If you can't close in them, then it's community building, not not a not a lead gen in that same way. So the number of open conversations. The next question to ask is like, do I have downloads, right? Like, are people downloading a PDF from me? Are people like, what's my like lead magnets and how many of those have been downloaded in the last month? Okay. So, it might be like, um, I won't count this in mine because to me it's not a conversion event, but I can look and see because I was running ads to it. I can see how many people downloaded my numerology powered business plan and I use Kajabi as my software. So it will tell me how many people downloaded it in the last month or however long I want this timeline to be. So I can look at that. But for me, when I look at this part here, I'm looking at conversion events. So I'm looking at workshop attendees and sales conversations. Those are the only two things I look at in my business. So if you run workshops, if you run events, if you do master classes, that goes here too. If you send out pitches and proposals, that goes here too. If someone has sent you an RFP, that goes here too. So we can call them opens, right? Like anywhere it's like a conversation opener of people being like, I'm curious to work with you, tell me more. Okay. So if that's happening in your world, we need to track it. Okay. We need to track it. So for me, I'd be tracking workshop attendees and sales calls. This is why we don't want to go too long of a timeline. So that's why it might be helpful to do this like every Friday because it's top of mind and fresh. Like, yeah, I remember the conversations I had in the last 4 or 5 days. Whereas, like, I don't know if you're like me, you probably don't remember the conversations you had 2 weeks ago. They don't stick in my brain anymore. But that's where we rely on things like calendar and software to give us the data. Okay. So the number of opens per month, the number of leads per month, the number of stage two per month that you're getting. Okay. I want you to put the number in here. And if you're not entirely sure what the number is yet, then just be like, well, maybe it's realistic for me to think that I do 2 sales calls a week. Perfect. So then you could imagine you probably have 8 sales calls in a month. So put down 8. Okay. So whatever you think, if you don't know the number, just make something up so that we can actually get the practice of this together. Okay. Then in the second section, you want to write down how many deals closed. Okay. So this is how many clients paid you. Okay. So how many clients did you get? And this is where you count like the deal or the person. Okay. So I got X number of people, X number of deals, however you look at it, right? I get a fair bit often in my DMs, but I feel like I lose too many here. If you're losing them in your DMs, then you need to have another stage two that takes them from DMs to arguably a one-on-one. Or if you don't, if your people like some client niches or some offer types, sales calls don't necessarily make as much sense. If that's the case, then I would recommend like an assessment of sorts where they either fill out a form or send you a voice note with information and you assess the voice note, you assess the form, and you send them back. So it's almost like an asymmetrical sales call in a sense. Does that make sense? Like asymmetrical meaning like it's a sales call, but it's not face to face, one to one. Ooh, a behavior needs assessment. Absolutely. So, doing a behavior needs assessment, this is almost like having a quiz funnel that's not automated. And there's a lot to be said for automation, but there's also a lot to be said for personalization and being like, I'm going to send it to you, you send it back, and I'll review it with you, right? And we'll come up with a strategy together, right? So it's almost, yeah, it's like a not automated quiz, right? It's a personalized assessment. I actually think assessments are super, super, super powerful because if there's any way that you can identify gaps and opportunities in your business model, you want to, right? You need to be able to point out to people where the gaps are and where the opportunities are. And that's the key to being able to position something. If you don't know the gap and the opportunity, how are you going to tell them the benefit from buying the thing you're selling? Right? You really need to be able to make the benefit super tangible, which to me is the whole point of a sales conversation, an assessment, a proposal, a pitch, anything like that. I need to know black and white what's the challenge you're facing, what's the opportunity that's there, and what is the cost of that gap. As soon as I can cost that gap out, then you have a chance of actually closing the sale, right? If it's very ungrounded, it's trickier. You can still do it, obviously, but it's really helpful to understand the cost. And, for some of us, the cost is very obvious in terms of financial cost. Not everything is a financial cost, though, right? Like, what's the cost of feeling my household being dysregulated and me being disconnected from my children? There's no monetary cost to that, but there's a massive emotional toll to it. And the more I can understand what that is, the more informed I am going to be about the decision I'm making to hire help or not, right? Or if you're doing energy work or healing work with someone, again, it might be tricky to understand the like financial cost of the gap that they have, but you can help them to understand the emotional or mental or social or professional cost it's going to be if they don't resolve the gap that you've identified in the assessment. Okay. It's when you structure your sales conversations and assessments in that way, it makes everything so much more clear. And sometimes it's as simple as like I like to refer to the EFT tapping as an example because in EFT tapping, it's like, rate the sensation on a scale of 1 to 10 in terms of intensity, and people will be like, it's a 9. Perfect. That's good to know. And if you didn't feel that way, what would that be? Well, that would be like a 2. It's like, great. So the gap you're facing right now is between 9 and 2. Okay. What's the value in closing that gap? How important is it to close that gap? If you were to close that gap, what would that do for your life, your health, your family, whatever, right? And helping people to understand that makes them understand if it's worth their time and energy to resolve it. Sometimes it's not worth it, and at least they know that now. Okay. Um, so we've got number of closed deals. So number of clients coming in, number of closed deals. Okay. This one should be relatively easy. Your system should show you how many new clients closed or how many purchases were made, right? Like the number of purchases. So you can look in your accounting system, your finance system, that kind of thing, or even just track it manually if you like doing that. And then revenue. This should be simple. You should be able to look into your Stripe account, your bank account, your QuickBooks software, whatever, however you track your money. You should just be able to do a monthly total. Okay. So ideally, you guys either are looking on your softwares right now and you've got your Zoom minimized and you can write those numbers down. Like log into your QuickBooks, log into your Kajabi. Like I use Kajabi and it tells me all that stuff. Or Stripe, log into that and it will tell you that stuff. Or if you use PayPal, I shouldn't even bring up PayPal because I don't really recommend it. But some people that's what they use. So then you could log in and use it. Um, And if you don't have a number for that, if you can't calculate it in this moment, just make it up. Imagine to yourself, okay, well, I could imagine I brought in, 4 new clients this month. Okay, so I'm going to write down four. And I imagine I'm making, $5,000, $10,000, whatever it is per month. Write down that number. These three numbers, the leads per month, so those are the opens, right? So whether it's a conversation, an assessment, whatever, proposal, workshop, that number, the number of closed deals, and the revenue, those are the three magical numbers. Do you guys think this is easy enough going forward now that you know how important this is to write these down, say every Friday or every first of the month? Do you think you could track this? Let me know if that feels doable to you, and I'll tell you why it's so important in a minute. Yes, I love it. Like you can just literally copy this Google Doc and like add some extra tabs in, maybe a tab for each month, and just keep track of it that way. It'd be super easy to see. Yeah, it's a great practice on Monday for sure. I love that. Okay, Candace, I'm reading your question here. Let's jump on in a one-on-one call and dive into this. But this is a really, really good question. When you do an assessment, how much do you reveal? Okay. The point of an assessment is to have a diagnosis. So you need to identify the problem and the solution, but you don't need to solve the problem. That's the line, right? It's like I need to identify what the gap is. Otherwise, they don't know what's needed, but I don't need to solve it. Okay. So yeah, you can't solve the problem. That's not helpful in in an assessment because it's like they don't have the information and they don't know what they don't know to properly implement. Um, yeah. Do you want to unmute and talk about it, or do you want why don't you book in? We can chat through this.
Sure,
Make sure.
sounds good. It's pretty windy. Might be hard to hear me.
Totally. Let's do that. Okay. So once you know these two numbers, the total leads per month and the number of closed deals per month, when you put those two together, it tells you what's known as your conversion rate. Have you guys ever heard of the term conversion rate before? Conversion rate is basically the number of closed deals divided by the number of leads. So, what that means is if I have 10 sales calls, let's use sales calls as an example because that applies to basically every business. You might name them something different, but if you have a one-on-one conversation about your business with someone, it's a sales call. If I have 10 sales calls, how many of those people will buy? That's my conversion rate. And for me, I know that it varies month to month and product to product, but typically, if I have a sales call with someone, probably between 30 to 70% of the time they buy. It varies if it's a numerology product or a business product. It also varies based on my energy big time, which is very interesting to notice, right? So then if I say to myself, okay, Megan, you want 5 new clients next month, The math is simple. I know I need to have 10 sales calls, right? On average. So if it's like, I know I need to have 10 sales calls, that's the leading indicator that's going to tell me if I'm going to get the clients. It's going to tell me if I'm going to get the revenue. So by tracking how many sales calls I'm having, I know I need 10 next month. Okay, so what's that? Like 3 a week? Okay. So going on Monday morning, when I'm sit down at my desk and I'm like, what am I supposed to focus on? 3 sales calls, done. Okay. My goal for this week is to book in 3 sales calls because I know by the end of the month, that's going to probably equal 5 clients based on my stats, which is probably going to equal X amount of dollars based on my stats. I wouldn't know that if I didn't track this. Does that make sense? How many people now officially are desperate to know what their conversion rate is? Like, as soon as I really started to understand this stuff, I was like, why are people not talking about this more? Like, now I know what to do. Now I know what to do, right? So, the math, like well, do you want me to write it down here for you guys? Because I didn't include this one. Can I add it to the sheet? So good, right? I don't know if I can add it. Oh, there we go. Conversion rate is simply, can I put it here now? It's simply the closed deals. Where's the divided by button? I don't know where the divided by button is. We'll use this closed deals, oops, divided by the number of leads. And it's going to equal a percentage. Okay, so if you close half of your sales conversations, your conversion rate's 50%. So then if you know you need 5 clients, you need to have 10 sales conversations. Easy peasy. Okay. Um, the next piece that's really needed, but is a lagging indicator. We talked about this as your revenue, right? This comes in after. Okay. So the revenue, you find that out after you've had the sales calls and after you've had closed deals. So it's a lagging indicator. You still need to know it, but once you know your revenue, like what's done is done, right? So total revenue, you can either just do it as a total, which if you're just starting is kind of what I recommend. If you want to get a little fancy pants with it, you can break it down by your offer, right? So if you do paid workshops and one-on-one and group, you might have 3 different revenue categories, one for your groups, one for your privates, whatever, however you want to do it, or just do total. It doesn't really matter. Okay. You can just do total to keep it easy. And so if this is something new to you to track and look at this information, keep it easy by just calculating your total revenue. So it's like if I'm doing this on October 1st, I can just look back at my QuickBooks and I can see the month of September in QuickBooks, I had 5 clients start working with me and I generated $10,000, whatever. And then I can do the math. Okay. This one you can't necessarily get from QuickBooks, but you can get it from your calendar, right? Or else manually track it every week as to how many conversations you're having. And then this is the last formula that I really want to point to. So earnings per lead. Okay. All that is you calculate your revenue divided by your leads. So if I've had 10 sales conversations, that's 10 leads, and I would divide that by my revenue. So in my simple example, I said I had 5 new clients and made $10,000. Well, if I had 10 sales conversations and made $10,000, that meant each lead generates me $1,000. Does that make sense? Once I know a lead generates me $1,000, now I know how much and effort to put into bringing leads in to my business. So this is really powerful, and you may or may not mentally be there yet, but that's okay. But it helps you to understand how much money should I be paying to bring leads into my business. Do I want to put money into ads? How much money do I want to put money into ads? Do I want to pay to join a networking group? How much money would I be willing to pay to join a networking group? Because now I know the value of a new lead. If I don't know that, then if someone's like, is it worth it to join this $2,000 networking group? I don't know. How do I know? I don't know what a lead is worth. As soon as I know what a lead is worth, then I can make that decision very smart and strategically. Does that make sense? So these three numbers are your report card: leads per month, number of closed deals, and total revenue. With those three numbers, you're going to make these two calculations: earnings per lead and conversion rate. And it's literally going to tell you what's working and what's broken. Because you'll know, am I getting enough leads? Yes or no? Is my conversion rate too high, too low? It's like, oh, last month it was low. Okay, why? Was my energy off? Okay, yeah, my energy was off. What can I do to bring my energy up? Maybe I need some coaching. Maybe I need some self-care. Maybe I need some sleep. Maybe I need to like reinvigorate my excitement in my business. Okay, like now I know what to do. If I don't know what these numbers are, I don't know what, where to put my effort and where to put my energy. So, obviously, like when someone sits down with me in a business assessment, we don't necessarily go into calculating these numbers, although we could. But I look at the questions I ask them, I ask them to look at these numbers to figure out what seems to be working versus not working, because these three numbers tell us so much, right? If my earnings per lead seems really low, then it's like, okay, why is that? What can I do to increase my earnings per lead? Do I need to add another offer in? Do I need to figure out how to make sure that my clients stay longer, like client retention? Or, maybe my conversion rate's low. How do I make it so that when I have a conversation, like if I'm having, you know, five conversations for every one client I'm getting, that's telling me that I could probably do a better job in my sales calls. So what do I need to do? Or I've had other people with the opposite problem. It's like they convert 100% of the clients they talk to. And if that's the case, that's also telling you you're missing a massive opportunity, right? Your conversion should probably never be 100%. That's problematic. Does that make sense? If anyone has that problem, come and talk to me because you have a massive opportunity in the business, right? Usually it's because they're priced way too low. If you can close 100% of your sales conversations, your price is way too low. Typically, that's typically what's going on. Yeah. Okay. And that's a pretty easy fix. I mean, easy, not easy. Raising your prices sounds easy, but it can also bring up a lot of stuff for people of like, oh, like if I'm closing 100%, I need to raise my prices. What comes up for people often is like, can I be charging this much? Am I good enough? Will people still want to say yes? I want to be of service. I want to be affordable. Like all these things start to come up. And there's workarounds for all of it. Like there's solutions for all of it. You don't have to just price too high and lose some of your favorite clients. There's some strategy we can do to fix that, right? Okay. Um, where do I want to go next? Okay, so your report card, three numbers, three steps. So are we clear on the three numbers that you need to calculate every month? I want to know, either unmute or comment in the chat, how many of you are going to do this calculation? Let's just say on the first of every month, looking back, like October 1st, you would do September, November 1st, you would do October. How many people want to commit to tracking these numbers for themselves? And if you have like a very defined sales cycle, you can do it by sales cycle, which is what I often do. I do it by sales cycle. So if I know I'm going to be in a 6 week promotion of something particular, I'll do it for that 6 week promotion. And then the cool thing about that is I can compare, right? So, like, I ran a very similar workshop to this in February. So, when I'm done this workshop and I calculate all my stats, I can look at the one in February and look at the one in September and compare and be like, conversion was better or worse, revenue was better or worse, number of leads better or worse, right? And start to see like a trend. And because I've been doing this for so long, I can go back and look at many of my sales cycles and I can see where I've improved, where there's work to be, that kind of thing. But the really cool thing about this is there's really only three numbers that you need to see. I mean, obviously, if you wanted to really nerd out, there's lots of places you can look for more data. But every time I find that people overcomplicate it, they don't follow through with it, right? Yes, people avoiding numbers. It's a great exercise to push through resistance. Yeah, totally aligned. Beautiful. So yeah, either by month or by sales cycle. And I think it depends if you're, if I'm doing workshops, that's, I would follow that as a sales cycle versus a month. Whereas if I'm doing one-on-one sales calls, then it would be more like week to week or month to month. Okay. And then we covered structure. The final step, and this cannot be understated, surrounding yourself with the right people. And if you're going to play with this report card, I highly encourage that even though, when we think of it, we think, oh, like, let me just do the math, which is great. I still want you to rate yourself on your offers, your stage one, stage two, stage three offers to make sure you like them and they're working because they don't, you could start a lead magnet and it's working great. And then all of a sudden it stops working. And you're like, if you don't stop to kind of take a look and peek at it and see, how would you know? Right. So you need to stay on top of analyzing this. I'd say like once a month, just have a look, be like, how many people downloaded it? And what did those people do next? If you have a system, an email system like Kajabi or ConvertKit, or Go High Level or any of those types of systems, it will track that for you. You can log in, you can see how many people clicked, how many people downloaded, and what do they do next, right? And then finally, every month, I would strongly encourage you to check in with the energy you're surrounding yourself. The people you surround yourself with matter. And this is one of those things that I hate to say it makes or breaks you as an entrepreneur. If you surround yourself with people who have like a 9 to 5 mindset versus an entrepreneurial mindset, you will notice the difference in your business. And I'm not saying that, all your friends who work a 9 to 5, you should cut them out, but like mindfully choose to also include energy in your life of other entrepreneurs. And there's two pieces to it. Number one would be like, well, it's actually number two on this piece, but like this one is peers and colleagues. So other people who are on the path with me, who I can just message them. Maybe we do a voice note back and forth, right? Like we all have those friends who, I mean, I'm assuming because I do. I have 2 or 3 friends where we send these like long voice notes of here's what I'm doing today, here's the actions I'm taking. And then it's like, here's where things are going sideways and I don't know what to do. And I need to talk through it with someone who's a peer, who's a colleague, who gets what I'm talking about. Because it's like if you tell the wrong person, like say you're in the middle of a promotion and you tell the wrong person, oh my God, I'm freaking out. I'm spending money on ads and I don't know if they're working. If you tell the wrong person that, they're going to be like, well, stop spending money on ads then. And it's like, that's not necessarily the answer. But a colleague or a peer is going to say to you, well, like, how are your ads performing? What's happening to your leads after they download your opt-in? Then what happens next? Like a peer can talk with you through some of that stuff and or a mentor. So the idea behind peers and colleagues is they are on the same path walking with you. Mentor, teachers, and guides, they've already walked the path and they can speak from the knowledge of the history and experience of like, yeah, I tried this and this is how it worked out for me. And this is what I wish I would have done differently. And this is where the opportunities lie. And this is what to be aware of, and it's like having that sense of like, I am not just out in the wild, wild west over here with no compass and no map. Like, there are people who have done this before, and this is actually really no big deal because our nervous system, every time we do something new, it's a massive deal. And I love this so much because this is a great example for me. Up until last year, so 2024, before 2024, I never ran ads. I was terrified of running ads. They scared me so much. I was like, this feels like playing the lottery. This feels like playing the slot machine at a casino. Like, I have no idea. But I worked with a mentor who taught me how to use ads in a very strategic way. And I also have colleagues who use ads. And so when I started freaking out, I would message them and be like, oh my God. And they'd be like, well, did you try that? Did you try this? And I'd be like, right, come down from the ledge. Ads are not that big of a deal. And now it's been a year since I've been working with ads and I love them. I'm super happy that I like finally got over myself to try them. Could I have done that without either the mentor or the colleague? No, I for sure needed both, right? I for sure needed both. Like my business bestie to talk me through my freakouts, as well as the mentor to be like, here's the strategy, here's the step by step, here's how you apply it. And like, off you go, right? Both. So, any questions? Do you guys, as you start to fill this out, because I encourage you to fill it out now, do you have people like that in your world? This is honestly one of my favorite things about working in a group coaching program is every time I do, I purposely decide to make a bestie out of it, right? So I have business besties from everywhere. And it's because I met them in a group program or at a live event or at a retreat, and we stayed in contact and we send each other messages as need be. And they become a huge support for me, right? And there's been ones, like I'm thinking of my friend Catherine. I met her, oh my gosh, years and years ago, probably in like 2019, online, and we were online friends for years. And then we ended up going to a retreat to Mexico together, to the same retreat in Mexico, and met in person. And it felt like we already knew each other because we'd been online besties for so long, right? But then it's like she's doing her thing, I'm doing my thing, and we can reach back and forth to support each other. So there's lots of people like that. There's people like that who I've never met actually, and like we're online friends and I've never met them, but like you can go to them for things, right? And I met them in groups. So business besties and then mentors and teachers. And obviously like it doesn't even need to be said that I'm like constantly learning because it's like we can't just be stagnant. We're constantly learning and growing. So, all of that to say, this is part of what I want to offer you if you're ready to kind of take it to the next level and receive support through the business mentorship program I teach. The whole point of the program is to refine your customer journey. So, it's to refine your three-stage business model, get really clear on what is my attraction strategy, how am I bringing people in? So, that would be like growing your audience, then understanding what is my conversion event? What is the thing that gets me clients? Whether it's a sales call, a workshop, a live event, an assessment, everyone's different, but you need to have something, ideally one or two somethings, right? And then you need to have a good, solid offer that's profitable. So we spend 6 months crafting it together. And how the structure is every month we have the initial meeting where I kind of teach what we're going to talk about for the month ahead. And then everybody within the group starts to make their plans and starts to implement it. And then the following meetings, and we'll do 2 extra meetings, which are like coaching, Q&A, hot seat coaching, that kind of thing, where you can be like, what about this? I'm trying this. This is where I'm stuck. And we talk through it. I also open up a group chat with all of the group members so that you can support each other, right? And I always encourage everyone like follow each other on social media, comment on each other's posts, test out each other's funnels, like put yourself in your business bestie's funnel and see what it feels like and give them feedback because you going in the funnel, anybody's funnel, from a sense of like thinking of it strategically and from a business minded approach is very different than you going into it from a consumer approach. You will learn just as much as you will be able to support them in their implementation. So, yeah, we were together for about 6 months. You start off with a one on one call with me where I will map out your business model with you. Initially, I'll get you to fill out this intake form. I fill out what I believe is a great business model for you. Then we sit down and we hash it out together to make sure it's on point. And then basically we spend the next 6 months implementing. So that's the structure of the Abundant Business Mentorship. It's $3,000 for the 6 months to join me. You can absolutely split that up into 6 payments. So it works out to $500 a month. And if you are Canadian, I do have Canadian pricing for Canadians as well. And if you do pay in full, I will be offering you a 2026 planning strategy session as my thank you gift to you for being willing to jump in with both feet and pay in full because cash flow is a thing as entrepreneurs. And I love rewarding people who take that like bold, decisive action as fast as they possibly can because it's like momentum breeds momentum, right? So the more we take actions and move forward, the more we're able to see the flow unfold. Um, yeah. Oh, if you choose to do one-on-one coaching with me instead, we can basically follow a similar model, or I can customize it specific to you. And my private coaching is $1,000 a month so that you just kind of have context. So if you were to follow that same system privately with me, it'd be 6,000. If you want to do it with the group, it's 3,000, right? So it's basically like a 50% cost differential, whether you work in a group or one-on-one. So pros of the group is the business besties. Pros of the one-on-one is you get all my focus for our time. Both are good. I do have a few people on the call who were in the current group that's wrapping up. If you ladies feel like you would like to share what it's like to work with me, it would mean the absolute world to me. I think Michelle's here. I think Tina's here. Let me know if you ladies can unmute.
Yep, I can unmute. Let's try English here.
Tina.
Um, Working with Megan has been a real revelation in how I go about looking at business. I have had business training in the past, but it was very cut and dried. It was very, you had to do this, this, and this. And Megan has brought the energetic world into it to a degree that the business now fits me, not the other way around. And I mean, I've had my stumbling points, absolutely. I like to say I'm a little bit behind in class. Megan looks at me and goes, "No, you're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be." And it's true. Some of these pieces do take a little bit longer to pull together in a way that fits you energetically. And if you've got the opportunity to work with Megan on those pieces for your business, I really, really encourage you to jump in, get to know the numerology with her, get to know the energetics behind what the business is supposed to look like for you and you alone, because each individual business is its own personality. And it's been wonderful.
Thanks, Tina. It's been
Thank you.
wonderful seeing you take it and run with it and involve it with the products that you'd already been developing and make it your own. It's so exciting to see. So thank you for sharing.
Thank you. I never thought I'd become a published author in all of this either.
Oh my gosh, congratulations.
Yeah, yeah, that's coming out at the end of the month. So,
End of the month. Okay, you're gonna have to make
yeah,
sure you post it and tag me so I can share it because that's
I will.
amazing. I love it.
Mhm.
Thank you. Uh,
Okay, it's my turn next.
yes, Michelle, go for it.
Okay, I'll put the video on too. Okay, so yeah, I'm really happy that I chose to go with Megan to step into the business side of things. I needed the structure, and because I do work as a coach myself with helping people with their physical bodies and the nervous system and all that sorts of thing. Um, it was like a piece of the puzzle that I needed, and it was the last piece I wanted to look at was the numbers. Um, and it's very like the left hemisphere kind of thing. So, and it just made sense to me with your background and you working with numerology as well as, I don't know, it just to me it was a no-brainer. It just made sense to go to someone to grow my business, which is related to numbers and finances, to talk to someone who had that background than to go to another energy worker or body, practitioner that, we're in the same boat. So you're gonna give me the feedback that I just want to hear. But the structure that you brought was incredible. And it's just so crazy how it aligned every week with what I needed, no matter what. And so I really, yeah, it's been a great value. And now it's a little hard to stop. Now I'm like, okay, now that I've gotten this far, like I literally have grown so much in 6 months,
Mhm.
I'm still growing. And now I'm feeling the growing pains for the next step. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to now make my business grow enough so that I can actually afford her all the time too. So it's making that's the next
I
the
love
next step. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing. That makes me so happy. I love the projects you've been working on, and it's so exciting to see the growth and it going out there. And I think to me, that's the most exciting thing is I get to see all these brilliant people with the coolest gifts in the world, and they're like the world's best kept secret. And I'm like, no, how do we let people know your gifts exist? Because you do some magical, wonderful things, and people need to be able to find out about you and they need to get help from you. And yeah, that's my favorite part.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm glad I got to say thank you in the
Thanks,
end.
Michelle. I appreciate you sharing. So good. Okay, yes. If you have questions, book a call with me. The call is absolutely no obligation, and we'll just sort of talk through where you're at in your business, if this makes sense for you. If you know you want to go ahead, that's great. You can like register, the link is there. But if you want to, even if you want to chat with me in the DMs, if you want to hop on a conversation, I've got time available for that. And I would like to make sure it makes sense for you. If you have any friends where you're like, I kind of think they need this, send them my way, either by DM or email or whatever, because I'm happy to hop on a strategy call with them as well. And like, even mapping through this report card with people is just, it's like people have these amazing gifts, and it's like, how do we help people get out there? You know what I mean? So important. It's like taking a 1,000 piece puzzle with no lid and bringing it back together that makes sense. I love that analogy, Tina. Thank you. So, in October, for the first few weeks in October, we're going to be focusing on me delivering you your one on one session. So, it won't be until the last week in October that we have our first group call. So I'll definitely send you the details out about that. But typically, I run group calls on the Tuesday. So, if you're like worried about timing and that, just send me a note and I'll make sure that we can make that work for you. But yeah, the first 2 to 3 weeks in October, it's going to be about getting your business strategy in and booking your one on one with me, which you can do, anytime. And then the group calls will start end of October. All right. Any more questions for me? You're so welcome, Margaret. Thank you so much for being here. Absolutely. Thank you. Okay, well, before we wrap up, then, if there's no more questions, if you guys have a chance, I'd love for you to just unmute and let me know or pop it in the chat. What was your takeaway from today? What hit? What landed? What are you going to move forward with? I want to know what you guys learned from today's call.
I'll share.
Yeah.
It was keeping track of the numbers.
Yeah.
And yeah, you pointed out to me that some of the things I was kind of losing sight of the thing that was actually making me the most impact, which was the 30-minute call. So I was like, okay, I kind of lost a little focus. I got to bring it back to that.
Mhm.
And it's kind of like I regret, or not regret, but I avoid looking at my bank account for the most part.
Yeah.
So it is a serious issue for me. So doing this numbers game is going to be exactly what I need. So thank you.
You're so welcome. I'm glad to hear it. Thanks, Michelle. Margaret saying you don't have to track everything and it's actually way easier than I thought it would be. Yes, yes, Margaret, that makes me so happy. Yeah, what items to look at when you want to make a change, what actually moves the needle. Absolutely, Teresa. Thank you for sharing that. So true. Yeah, it's like going back to what I said in the beginning. Numbers are just symbols. So we need to understand what they're trying to represent. Otherwise, it is kind of pointless.
I can share.
Yes.
I think, I caught all 3 days now, and how much, like, how important it is to have an actual real strategy. And I can just see like so many efforts that have fallen short from not having like a solid strategy. And so I'm kind of just seeing all these things come flooding towards me of like, oh my gosh, like that thing that I did, I could have done this and that. And so it's just sort of faced with all the money I've left on the table from not having um, like a system for for, like everything you've discussed. And I think also some of the ways that we can repel people, I tend to be like so passionate that I can just fire hose a little bit.
Mhm.
And I just need to like channel that energy in an actual strategy rather than the spaghetti invent the wheel every day, every time. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thanks for sharing, Candace. I think that's so powerful and it's so true. It's like we have these things we want to share. Of course, we get fired up about them. And it's like that to me, that shows that you're doing meaningful and purposeful work, which is a wonderful thing. But then it's like, okay, how do I, going back to the, infinity
Hmm.
circle, divine law of compensation, how do I make sure the energy that's going out is getting reflected back to me?
So yes, thank you. I'm excited to we'll chat after and
Yes.
just to channel it more directly, intentionally. So thank you so much. It was so good.
Thanks, Candace. I'm so glad you
Hmm.
were here. I love that. Yes, Rosalie, more sales calls, advertising. Absolutely. It's so funny to me how, whatever you think you need to do in terms of advertising, you probably need to like quadruple it, right? You like, I'll do things where I'm like posting every single day for 2 weeks about the same thing. And it never fails that someone will be like, oh, I never heard you talk about that. Like, I literally haven't shut up about it for 2 weeks. And you say you never heard me talk about it. It's just like people just have a lot going on. The algorithm is what the algorithm is. And you need to say something 10 times more than you think you did, and it still won't land. And that's okay, right? But it kind of goes back to what we talked about yesterday with that like zero moment of truth research about how it's like 11 touch points before people are ready to buy. It's like, whew, that's significant, but okay, right? If that's what it is, then let me just make that happen rather than like feeling daunted by it or thinking my product sucks because I talked about it 3 times and nobody bought. It's like, well, no, that's not enough. That doesn't mean you suck or your product sucks. Yeah, right? I post things twice and think I'm annoying people. Yeah. One of the greatest things I think about becoming an entrepreneur is freeing ourselves from those projections that we make about like, am I being too loud? Am I being annoying? Am I taking too many selfies? Am I taking up too much space? Am I being braggy? Am I like, whatever this story is, I've heard it all. I've probably said it to myself as well, is proving how false those things are to ourselves. Because until we're willing to look them in the eye and choose a different reality, they will be the reasons that we're not able to, move forward, take the next step, whatever that is, right? And it's like, I don't know, people within my programs would get the sassy side of me sometimes. And I'm like, unless you're in my kitchen cooking me dinner, or unless you're paying my bills, you don't get a vote. If you think I'm annoying, have at her. But until you're paying my bills, I don't care. That's my thought process on it. Uh, questions, comments? I'm really hoping I'm going to see you guys in my calendar over the next week or two so that we can go forward and, pull all this together. I will send out the recording. I will send out the report card. And if you have anyone that you want to forward it to, that would mean the world to me to put this out there. And yeah, if you want to continue the conversation, reply to an email or book in my calendar, and we'll chat. All right. Mwah. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate you being here so much with me, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Thanks, Tina. Thanks, everyone.